What do you do when the life you built is just a cage with prettier bars? I thought I had things under control, a steady job at a bookstore, a fiancé who made the world think he was charming, and a tiny apartment that somehow held more tension than furniture. But it all came undone the night I packed a single duffel bag and walked out without looking back. The end didn't come with shouting. There was no dramatic fight or broken plates. It was quieter than that, more terrifying, in a way. It was the way he looked at me when I told him I'd been let go from the bookstore. No comfort, no concern. Just cold annoyance, as if I'd ruined his night. Again? Eric said, his tone biting. You can't keep a job, but you sure can keep dragging me down. I didn't cry. I didn't argue. I simply went to the bedroom, packed what I could into an old gym bag, and left. I didn't even take the charger for my phone. That's how badly I needed out. The hotel I found was as tired looking as I felt, cracked wallpaper, a bedspread that smelled like someone else's cigarettes, and a flickering hallway light that buzzed just enough to keep me alert. But the moment I locked the door behind me, I felt something unfamiliar, relief. For the first time in years, I could breathe without measuring each inhale. The next day, I called every job listing I could find. Anything. I would have cleaned porta potties if it meant staying away from Eric. As luck, or maybe fate, would have it, one ad caught my attention. A part-time housekeeper needed for a wealthy couple who owned a dacha about an hour outside the city. Private. Secluded. High-paying. No questions asked. By the end of the week, I was hired. The doctor, Gregory Langford, was polite but distant. His wife, Evelyn, not so much. She was the kind of woman who could give you a compliment and a warning in the same breath. Cold, capricious, and used to being obeyed. I kept my head down and worked. Their country home was enormous, filled with antique furniture and hollow silences. It didn't feel lived in, more like a gallery where no one touched the art. 2 weeks in, I was sent to prepare the dacha for the weekend. Alone. It was my favorite assignment. No Evelyn, no tension, just me and my thoughts. Until I opened the closet. At first, I thought it was a pile of laundry, tucked into the shadows behind some coats. Then it moved. I froze. Hey, I said softly, stepping back. It's okay. I'm not going to hurt you. A boy, maybe 8 or 9, crawled out. His face was pale, eyes wide with terror. Dirt under his nails, bruises on his wrists. He looked like a ghost who'd forgotten how to disappear. I didn't steal anything, he whispered. I was just hiding. I didn't ask how he got there. I just wrapped him in a throw blanket from the couch, gave him a cup of tea, and waited for the shaking to stop, his and mine. I didn't know it then, but that boy was about to blow apart the fragile life I'd just begun to rebuild, and expose secrets the Langfords had spent years burying. The boy's name was Leo. He told me in a whisper, like someone might still be listening. He was 9, maybe 10, but malnourished enough to look younger. I asked if he was hungry. He nodded, eyes darting to the window like he expected someone to storm in. I microwaved him a frozen dinner Evelyn had left behind, some overpriced vegan lasagna she wouldn't have touched if her life depended on it. He devoured it in minutes. When he finished, I asked the question I'd been dreading. Leo, where are your parents? I don't have any, he said, almost like he was used to saying it. Not really. I ran away. From where? He went quiet. I didn't press. I just sat beside him on the worn-out leather couch and let the silence stretch. After a while, he fell asleep with his head on my arm. I didn't move. I didn't even breathe too hard. All I could think was, what the hell do I do now? I didn't call the police. I didn't call Evelyn or Gregory. Instead, I took him with me. The hotel manager didn't ask questions. He saw me walk in holding a sleeping child wrapped in a blanket and just nodded. I think he assumed I was someone's mistress with a kid in tow. I didn't care. I had enough cash for a few nights, and Leo didn't wake up until the next morning. He was surprisingly calm, considering everything. No tantrums, no crying. Just questions. "Are you going to send me back?" he asked over breakfast. "Back where?" He hesitated again. "Then, the orphanage. In Belhust. That's where I ran from. Evelyn took me there." Something cold slithered through me. "You knew Evelyn?" He looked away. "She didn't like me." That was the first real thread, and I pulled at it until it unraveled. Slowly, over the next few days, Leo told me fragments. Evelyn had visited the orphanage once a month, supposedly donating money or sponsoring kids. She'd taken a special interest in Leo, or rather, she pretended to. Then, without explanation, she stopped coming. "They told me she changed her mind," he said. "But I heard one of the ladies say something weird," she said, "that woman never wanted him in the first place." My stomach twisted. The pieces didn't fit yet, but something was off. Why would a rich woman like Evelyn have any reason to get involved with a single boy from a small-town orphanage, and then abandon him? That week, I started making inquiries about guardianship. The state system was a bureaucratic nightmare. They told me I needed proof of kinship, income verification, psychological evaluations, basically, a mountain of paperwork and months of waiting. One clerk even laughed when I asked if it could be expedited. "Unless you're someone important or have a lot of money," she said, "you're not jumping this line." I didn't have either. But I knew someone who did. I didn't want to ask Gregory Langford for anything. But Leo needed stability, not a rundown hotel and cereal for dinner. So, I called his office. The receptionist almost didn't patch me through, until I dropped Leo's name. Gregory called back in under 10 minutes. "Meet me at the dacha," he said. "Don't tell Evelyn." I didn't like the way he said it. When we arrived, Gregory was already waiting on the porch. He looked like he hadn't slept. When he saw Leo, his face went ghost white. Then flushed red. "Where did you find him?" he demanded, eyes on me, but not accusing. "In the closet." He looked like he might be sick. Leo, standing behind me, whispered, "That's him." "That's who?" I asked. "My dad." I turned to Gregory. He didn't deny it. Evelyn wasn't supposed to be at the dacha. That's what Gregory swore, pacing the kitchen like a man preparing to testify. He said she was in the city for some charity gala, probably sipping overpriced wine and pretending she liked poor people. But I should have known better. Women like Evelyn don't miss a single opportunity to control the narrative. And someone like me? I was the wrinkle in her story. I had just stepped outside to grab Leo's backpack from the car when I heard the scream. Then shattering glass. I dropped everything and ran back inside. She was standing in the kitchen like a woman possessed, barefoot, in a silk robe, her hair half done like she'd just arrived mid-breakdown. Her eyes went straight to Leo. "You brought him here," she hissed, turning to Gregory. "After everything I did to protect you?" Gregory stepped in front of the boy. "Enough, Ev." But she wasn't even looking at him anymore. Her eyes landed on me. "You," she said like the word itself tasted like bile. "I should have known. You always had that pathetic savior complex. Scrubbing floors and dreaming of fairy tales." "I didn't know," I said, my voice shaking. "I found him in your closet. He broke in. He was hiding from you." She lunged. She didn't go for me with her hands. She went for the drawer. There was a set of silver kitchen scissors. Sharp. Decorative. Useless for cooking, but perfect for someone who wanted to make a point. She grabbed them with a jerk, and before I could move, she rushed at me. I stumbled back, hitting the edge of the kitchen island so hard it knocked the air out of my lungs. Gregory was faster. He shoved her sideways, grabbed the scissors, and yelled for Leo to run. It was chaos, screaming, slamming, the sound of something ceramic crashing to the floor. Evelyn clawed at Gregory, shouting things I won't repeat. Things no child should ever hear. Leo stood frozen in the hallway, his eyes wide, hands shaking. I scooped him up and locked us in the bathroom. After what felt like hours, probably minutes, it went quiet. When Gregory knocked on the door and said it was safe, I didn't move at first. I didn't trust any of it. But he was crying. I could hear it in his voice. I didn't know, he kept saying. I didn't know what she did. He told us everything. Years ago, he'd been engaged to a woman named Lila. They'd been together for 2 years when she got pregnant, with Leo. But right before the wedding, Lila died in a car accident. Gregory was devastated, but Evelyn, his then colleague, later his wife, had been there through it all. Supportive. Kind. Too kind. Because behind his back, she'd intercepted documents. Manipulated reports. Hired a private investigator to confirm that Lila's child wasn't his. She convinced him to move on. To marry her. That the baby had been placed in a foster home. She said it was all handled, he said, his face pale, his hands trembling. I thought she was trying to protect me from the past. I didn't know she was erasing it. Leo had never been adopted. He'd bounced from one place to another, labeled difficult, because he didn't trust anyone. Gregory didn't even know the boy was still in the system. Evelyn had known. And she'd done everything to keep it that way. Gregory called a lawyer that night. And a therapist. And a social worker. By morning, the wheels were turning to make everything official. Leo would live with Gregory. I'd stay on as a temporary guardian until the paperwork cleared. Evelyn? She was gone. She packed a bag, took the Porsche, and vanished before the sun rose. She hasn't contacted anyone since. I thought the worst was behind us. I thought surviving Evelyn's rage and finally getting Leo somewhere safe meant the hard part was over. I was wrong. The hard part was everything after. We moved into Gregory's townhouse, a sterile, spotless place with white furniture and the emotional warmth of a conference room. Leo hated it immediately. Can we go back to the hotel? He asked the first night. He wasn't being difficult. He just didn't know how to feel safe. And Gregory, for all his wealth and medical credentials, was completely unprepared to be a father. He read all the wrong parenting books, tried to reason with trauma like it was a diagnosis he could treat. But Leo didn't need explanations. He needed connection. He needed someone who understood what it felt like to have your world snatched out from under you. That first week, Leo had nightmares every single night. Sometimes he woke up screaming. Other times, he'd just sit up in bed and stare at the door, waiting for Evelyn to burst through it. Gregory tried. He really did. But every time Leo cried, he froze. So I did what I always do, I stepped in. I made a blanket fort in the guest room. I read The Velveteen Rabbit out loud every night, even though Leo said he didn't care for baby stories. He started correcting my pronunciation just to have something to control. We started cooking together. Pancakes at 9 p.m.? Sure. Chicken nuggets for breakfast? Why not? I saw the first real smile from him on day 12. A crooked little grin with ketchup on his face. I didn't think grown-ups knew how to make forts, he said. I didn't think I'd ever make one again, I replied. Gregory watched all this from a distance at first, hesitant to intrude. But slowly, he started helping. He burned the pancakes once and Leo howled with laughter. The next day, Leo drew a picture of the three of us on the fridge. I still have it. And then, quietly, without meaning to, I became something I didn't expect, home. The social worker called it unusual. The courts called it unconventional. But the guardianship hearing still dragged on for weeks. Paperwork, background checks, home visits, all of it painfully slow. Every time I thought we were close, something would delay it again. It was Leo who suffered most. He became clingy, convinced someone would take him away again. He slept in the hallway twice, once with his backpack zipped up and ready, just in case. I started carrying his file with me everywhere. At night, I'd triple-check that everything was in order. My hand started shaking every time the phone rang. And then, during the third home evaluation, something happened that nearly derailed it all. The evaluator asked Leo how he felt about the situation. He looked straight at her and said, "She's my mom." She blinked. "You mean your legal guardian?" "No," Leo said. "My mom." The room went quiet. She wrote something down. Later, I asked her what she thought. She smiled. "I think you're exactly what he needs. I just hope the system sees it that way." That night, Gregory came home late. He looked like he'd been thinking too hard, too long. "Can we talk?" he asked. I nodded, my stomach already in knots. He sat beside me, rubbing his hands together like he was warming them, even though the house was plenty warm. "I want to make something official," he said. "Not just the guardianship. Us." I blinked. "What do you mean, us?" "I mean," he said slowly, "I want us to be a family. You, me, and Leo. Not just as roommates with responsibilities. As something real." I didn't say anything for a long time. Because I didn't know whether I was more scared of saying yes. Or of saying no. I wish I could tell you I said yes right away. That I fell into Gregory's arms and we kissed and the screen faded to black like in the movies. But real life doesn't work like that, especially when your trauma is still echoing in every corner of your brain. So instead, I panicked. And I left. I didn't go far. Just a hotel for the night, the same one Leo and I had stayed in when we first ran. Room 6B. Same peeling wallpaper. Same flickering hallway light. I needed space. I needed to remember who I was before this man, this boy, this almost family started to define me. But life doesn't pause just because you're overwhelmed. While I was gone, Gregory got a letter. Well, we got a letter. It was hand-delivered to the townhouse by a courier. No return address. No stamp. Just a single sheet of paper in a plain white envelope. Inside was a list. Names. Dates. Addresses. And at the top, in Evelyn's handwriting, "Still think I'm the only secret?" Gregory called me at 2:12 a.m. She knew, he said, his voice tight. She knew about the other women. What other women? Evelyn falsified documents for more than just Leo. She intercepted letters. She forged adoption papers. There are other kids. Silence. Mine? We don't know. But we both knew the answer was probably yes. The next few days blurred. I returned to the townhouse because I couldn't stay away. Not from Leo. Not from the mess I was now part of. We sat in Gregory's office for hours, going through every name. One woman had tried to reach Gregory through his hospital years ago. She was shut down by Evelyn's legal team. Another had sent pictures. They'd never arrived. Gregory was devastated. And I was just furious. Because the truth is, this wasn't about one manipulative woman anymore. It was about a system that let her do this. A system that let someone like Leo fall through the cracks. A system that almost destroyed him. And almost destroyed me. I called the social worker the next day. I didn't ask about guardianship. I asked about custody. 3 days later, I was granted temporary custody of Leo while the paternity situation unfolded. Gregory fully supported it. He said, "You've always been the one he runs to." And Leo? He hugged me and said, "Can I call you Mom now? Or is that weird?" I cried in the bathroom for 10 minutes. Not because it was weird. Because it felt right. Meanwhile, Evelyn's disappearance became a full-blown scandal. One of the other women, a nurse named Hannah, filed a formal complaint with the hospital board. The media got wind of it. Gregory was called in for questioning. And that's when everything exploded. Turns out Evelyn had been siphoning money from a charity fund she ran under Gregory's name. Nearly $300,000 unaccounted for. The board suspended him pending investigation. Gregory was livid. But more than that, he was broken. "I trusted her," he said one night, staring at nothing. "I married a woman who nearly destroyed my child. My name. Everything. I took his hand. You're not the man she tried to make you into. You're the man who saved Leo. Don't forget that." He looked at me, his eyes bloodshot. "I didn't just save Leo," he whispered. "You saved me." That night, I didn't sleep in the guest room. I slept beside Gregory. And Leo, that little rascal, snuck in at 6 a.m., climbed onto the bed, and curled up between us. For the first time, it felt like a family. A strange, stitched together, slightly broken family. But real. I hadn't thought about Eric in weeks. He belonged to another life, one filled with gaslighting, overdrawn bank accounts, and waking up every morning already bracing for a fight. I thought I'd close that door for good. But rock bottom has a way of making people remember who used to carry them. He showed up at my work. I was at Gregory's clinic, helping the admin staff with files, because apparently being Leo's full-time guardian didn't pay much and I liked keeping busy. I was behind the front desk when I saw him through the glass doors. Same leather jacket. Same arrogant slouch. But he looked smaller. Not thinner. Just shrunken. Like the world had stopped bending for him. He walked in, smirked, and said, "Heard you traded up. Rich doctor and a charity case, classy." I stood there, silent. "You always were good at pretending to care," he added. "But now you've got the kid, the house, and the daddy figure. You win." That's when it hit me. This wasn't an apology. This was a confession of loss. I didn't engage. I asked security to escort him out. He left without a fight, but not before saying one last thing. "My dad's getting sentenced next week." Fraud. You know how that goes. Guess I learned it from the best. Turns out Eric's dad had been laundering money for over a decade. When the investigation went public, Eric lost everything. The car. The apartment. The trust fund. Suddenly the man who told me I was dead weight was sleeping on a friend's couch and begging for job references. I found out later he'd reached out to Gregory for help. Gregory never told me. "I didn't want to bring that poison back into your life," he said. I smiled, because for once, I wasn't the one making excuses for someone toxic. Meanwhile, Leo was thriving. Therapy was helping. His night terrors were fewer. He started school part-time and made a friend, a boy named Sam who had an obsession with reptiles and made Leo laugh so hard he snorted apple juice at lunch. Gregory and I tried to give him normalcy. Saturday pancakes. Story nights. Grocery shopping turned into adventure missions. I let him pick out his own clothes, even when he chose a neon green hoodie 3 sizes too big. "He says it makes him invisible," Gregory whispered. "No," I said, "it makes him feel safe." One evening, we were decorating for Halloween when the doorbell rang. I answered it and froze. It was Eric. He wasn't alone. There was a child with him, a boy. Maybe 6. Brown curls. Same nervous eyes I used to see in the mirror. "This is my son," Eric said. No apology. No preamble. Just those 5 words and a look that begged for pity. "He's not safe with his mom right now," he added. I didn't know where else to go. My jaw clenched. "So you came to the woman you emotionally wrecked for 3 years?" I came to the only person I knew who wouldn't slam the door in my face. I wanted to slam the door. God, I wanted to. But the little boy behind him was shivering. No jacket. Holding a toy dinosaur with a chipped tail. "Please," the boy whispered. I'm cold. And just like that, my heart cracked. Not for Eric. For the kid. Because I know what it's like to be dragged through someone else's chaos. I let them in. I fed the boy soup. Let him sit on the couch next to Leo, who stared at him like he was a wild animal in his territory. I gave Eric 5 minutes in the hallway to explain. The boy's name was Jaden. His mother was battling addiction. Eric had custody but no stability. He'd burned every bridge except mine. I'm not asking for money, he said. Just a place for him tonight. I agreed. But I gave him a deadline. By tomorrow, you find somewhere else. He can stay. You can't. Gregory wasn't thrilled, but he understood. Leo, however, wasn't as forgiving. That night, he asked, "Why did you let the bad man in?" I crouched beside his bed, kissed his forehead, and said, "Because the boy behind him deserves a better story." Leo nodded. Then whispered, "Like me?" "Exactly like you. They say the best revenge is a life well lived." I used to think that was a nice quote for throw pillows. But today, watching Leo smear frosting all over his mouth at our wedding, I finally understood it. Because I didn't just survive. I won. After the night Eric showed up, we never saw him again. He left the next morning before sunrise. No goodbye. Just a note that said, "Thank you. I'll do better." Jaden stayed for a week while Child Protective Services sorted a temporary home. Before he left, Leo gave him his favorite dinosaur toy, the one with the chipped tail. "Scars make it cooler," he told him. That's Leo now. Someone who understands pain, but doesn't let it define him. Gregory was cleared by the hospital board. It took months, but the fraud charges were officially pinned on Evelyn. Her trail of falsified documents and stolen funds led straight to an offshore account she thought no one would find. She's currently awaiting trial. I don't feel hatred toward her anymore. Just relief. The ghosts she left behind no longer live in our house. Leo was formally adopted in May. Gregory petitioned for full custody, and I was named his legal co-guardian, with Leo's full consent. He insisted on signing a fake contract declaring me Mom 2.0, which now hangs on the fridge next to his school photo. He started calling us Mom and Dad without warning one night at dinner. Just dropped it casually between bites of spaghetti. "Hey Dad, can I have more cheese?" "Mom, you forgot to buy marshmallows." Gregory and I locked eyes, stunned. We didn't correct him. We just smiled. Gregory proposed 6 months after Evelyn disappeared. It wasn't dramatic. We were in the laundry room, folding socks, when he turned to me with that half-tired, half-lovesick expression and said, "You know, I'd marry you right now if I thought you'd say yes." I looked at him, holding a pair of mismatched socks, and said, "Then ask me." He did. I said yes. We got married at the dacha. The same place Leo once hid in a closet. Now, he was our ring bearer, in a little black suit and neon green socks that he insisted made him look serious but fast. The ceremony was small. Just close friends. Gregory's parents. My college roommate. Leo's therapist, yes, she cried. And a few other people who had stood by us through everything. Then, as we were cutting the cake, someone walked in late. I turned, and my heart caught. It was the hotel manager. The same one who didn't ask questions when I showed up weeks ago with a trembling boy in a blanket. He smiled, holding a small envelope. "I just wanted to say congratulations," he said. "And thank you, for proving some stories still end well." I cried. Right there. Frosting on my hands and mascara down my cheeks. Because he was right. We danced on the grass until our feet hurt. Leo played tag with the caterer's kid and demanded a second slice of cake. And at one point, as I stood by the window watching him laugh so freely under a string of lights, Gregory came up behind me and whispered, This is what love looks like." I used to think my life ended the night I left Eric. Now I know, that was the day it began. Not with fireworks. Not with dramatic music. But with a cheap hotel room, a closet, and a boy who taught me how to live again. We're not perfect. But we're whole. And that's more than I ever thought I'd get.